Whether it's their main damage source or they're just farming minions, every champion in League needs to auto-attack sometimes. Except for the stupid cat, but let's be honest, she's not a real champion. Whether you're an ADC fighting for your life in a teamfight, or a juggernaut pushing out a wave, auto-attacks are a staple of the game, and everyone should know how they work. This video is about auto-attacks, and all the things that they interact with. I'll be talking about critical strikes, on-hit effects, and abilities that work like autos. I'll also be revealing how much damage you can do with one auto-attack, so stick around to the end for that. A standard auto attack deals 100% of a champion's AD as physical damage. Champions attack at a rate depending on their attack speed, and these attacks have a random chance to critically strike. A critical strike increases the damage of an auto attack by 75%, increased to 115% if you have Infinity Edge. Critical strikes are modified auto attacks, not bonus damage added onto the initial attack. This means that the entire instance is affected by things like Randuin's Omen and Plated Steel Caps. Some abilities can also critically strike. Though there is a difference between a true crit and a cosmetic crit, you can tell whether an ability is really a crit by trying to increase the damage with Infinity Edge, or by trying to reduce it with Randuin's. Some abilities display their damage with a crit under certain conditions, like when Karthus' Lay Waste hits an isolated target, or when Aatrox hits a sweet spot on the Darkened Blade. Abilities that actually crit include Gangplank's Powder Keg and Garen's Judgment. They act like critical strikes, but not necessarily like auto attacks. Critical strike chance can be bought in the shop for 40 gold per point, in the form of a Cloak of Agility. You cannot have more than 100% crit chance, but some champions grant bonus stats for crit in excess of 100%, like Yasuo and Yone's passives. Critical strike damage can only be bought with Infinity Edge, and doesn't have an equivalent gold value. It's highly valuable because it's a unique effect, significantly boosting the damage of ADCs and other crit users. Critical strike chance can also be used for scaling, like on Xayah's Blade Puller and Twisted Fate's Pick a Card. These abilities do not critically strike or act like crits, but deal increased damage based on the caster's crit chance. This gives more linear damage scaling as the game progresses, instead of the spikes that most crit users experience. On-hit and on-attack effects are effects that trigger from basic attacks. They are almost always applied with an instance of basic damage, and are meant to supplement the original attack. This can be through bonus damage or other effects like slows. On-hit effects apply slightly differently to on-attack effects, which matters for interactions with different items and abilities. Luckily, it's pretty self-explanatory. On-hit effects apply when an attack or certain abilities hit the target, and on-attack effects apply when the wind-up is completed, meaning the attack doesn't have to hit the target to activate the effect. You can buy on-hit damage for 16.7 gold per point, or 50 gold per 3 points, in the form of a recurve bow. Most on-hit damage applies as proc or default damage, which doesn't trigger any additional effects. On-hit effects are further split into subcategories: all hit, end hit, and one hit. All hit effects apply on every hit a champion makes, like Kog'Maw's Bio-Arcane Barrage and Twitch's Deadly Venom. End hit effects apply on every nth hit against a target. For example, a 3-hit passive applies its effect every 3 hits. This type of passive is very common for champions to have, since it's simple to understand and adds an element of skill expression to a champion's kit. Some on-hit effects act like a combination of end-hit and all-hit effects. Kai'Sa's Second Skin deals magic damage on every hit, and every 5th application detonates to deal bonus missing health damage. Lastly, there's one-hit effects, or consumable effects. These include Sheen's Spellblade, and most empowered auto attacks like Garen's Decisive Strike. Some grant multiple empowered attacks, like Shyvana's Twin Bite, but I still count this as a one-hit effect. These effects are consumed when hitting the target, and do not apply again unless the champion regains the effect. On-attack effects are different from on-hit effects, in that they apply when your attack wind-up finishes. This includes things like Lulu's Picks and Runa's Hurricane's Bolts. It's important to note that things that apply on hit effects won't necessarily apply on attack effects as well. Guinsoo's Phantom Hit stacks on attack, meaning abilities like Irelia's Blade Surge, which only apply on hit effects, won't stack it. This is the full list of interactions, which is too expansive for me to go over here, so have a look on the wiki if you're curious about it. The advantage of on attack effects is that the attack doesn't have to land for the effect to apply. If you're hitting someone in Shen's Spirit Refuge, or you've been blinded by Teemo, you can still deal damage with Kael's Fire or Lulu's Picks by autoing, even though the attack itself won't do damage. On-hit effects don't just apply to auto attacks. Some abilities can apply them as well, leading to some interesting interactions. Abilities like Fiora's Lunge and Ezreal's Mystic Shot act like a basic attack for a lot of interactions, including applying on-hit effects. There is an important distinction between abilities that are auto resets, abilities that apply on-hit effects, and abilities that do both. For example, Aatrox's Umbral Dash is purely an auto reset, meaning it doesn't act like a spell, and therefore doesn't apply things like Serylda's Slow or the Burn on Liandry's. Abilities that apply on-hit effects include Irelia's Blade Surge and Volibear's Frenzied Maul. These These don't reset the champion's auto attack timer, but count as a separate instance of damage. These tend to deal basic damage, the same as an auto attack, while also dealing 0 spell damage to proc spell effects. There are also auto resets that proc spell effects. Trundle's Chomp and Kassadin's Netherblade will reset your attack timer, and also apply spell effects along with the on-hit, giving you the best of both types of on-hit abilities. The way that on-hit effects interact with blind, dodge, and block depends on how they are applied. Blind and dodge don't stop abilities that apply on-hit effects, such as Gangplank's Parley, but block will stop damage from any abilities that deal basic damage, including Yasuo's Steel Tempest and Fiora's Lunge. I actually went through a lot of testing and comparison to figure out who has the strongest auto attack. It was exhausting, and part of the reason this video will take so long to release. Let's start by explaining my criteria for the strongest auto attack. First, the input that causes the damage to be dealt must be a right click. This disallows abilities that are single target and act like basic attacks, like Warwick's Jaws of the Beast and Volibear's Frenzied Maul. Abilities that empower your next attack are allowed. Second, there must be no items, runes, or champions involved that scale infinitely. Otherwise, I could pick Veigar with Lichbane and get as high a number as I want. Third, we are not counting any damage scaling with the target's health. That would make things a lot more complicated, because different champions have different health, and I don't want to deal with that too much. For the same reason, I am not counting resistances or resistance penetration. I know my last video was about that, but just forget that for now. Fourth, the only requirement for a critical strike is 1% or more crit chance. This is because I am looking for the ideal attack, so it's only necessary that our chosen champion can crit. Fifth, we will have 4 different allied champions to support our main guy. They can buff him however they want, as long as they don't do any damage themselves, and they still follow the rule about infinite scaling. There are 102 champions that I considered for this. Some have single use on-hit effects, some have end-hit passives, some have permanent on-hit effects, some provided buffs, some just had interesting features I thought were worth considering. There were a lot of good contenders here. Caitlyn, for example, has an extremely convoluted AD and crit scaling on her passive, Headshot, and extra damage from her Yordle snap traps to boot. Nidalee, Fizz, and Echo have very high AP scalings, and paired with a Lichbane and some choice items, they can do massive damage. Jhin and Dr. Mundo have inbuilt ways to get bonus AD, so you might be wondering, who ended up being the best? It's Darius. Turns out a 230 AD buff overshadows anything other champions can bring to the table. Convoluted scaling? Meaningless. On-hit effects? Pale in comparison. Darius's Crippling Strike is a modified auto attack, dealing 160% AD physical damage and slowing the target. The entire attack can critically strike, not just the bonus damage. He also has a bleed on his passive Hemorrhage, which applies at 5 stacks instantly after activating Noxian Might. We take Infinity Edge for the bonus crit damage, Yuntal Wild Arrows for the bleed, Spear of Shojin for the percent damage increase, and a few other items to get the highest possible AD. For supporting champions, you go Emilio and Nami for their on-hit, Janna for her AD increase, and Lulu for her picks on attack. These champions must have at least one of each of the following items: Ardent Censer and Dreammaker for the on-hit, and Bloodsong for the damage increase. There are several runes and buffs we can take as well. For runes, we take Press the Attack, which gives 8% increased damage. Conqueror may seem like a good alternative, but it only gives 28.8 bonus AD at level 18, which gives much less damage than PTA does. The only other rune in the precision tree that matters to us is Last Stand, which gives 11% increased damage when below 60% max health. I didn't compare all the secondary trees, but extra damage can be squeezed out of Water Walking, Eyeball Collection, and Shield Bash, depending on your setup. If you feel like killing a few jungle camps, you can also get the Hand of Baron, Aspect of the Dragon, and Crest of Cinders from Baron Nashor, Elder Drake, and the Red Brambleback. We can also take 4 Infernal Drakes, which gives 12% bonus AD, and the Infernal Soul, which grants an explosion on hit that deals damage scaling with bonus AD and bonus health. The combined power of all these things will deal over 6,900 damage in this very specific scenario I created. This will kill all except the tankiest champions at level 18. Other champions with promising damage numbers are Jhin and Mundo, dealing around 2,900 and 3,600 damage respectively. It's maddening in its simplicity. I wanted to find the perfect on-hit champion to do this, preferably with some strange combo of effects, but it's just this guy, a stereotype of what a Noxian is. It's not even close. If you want a build that works on any champion, go Voltaic Cyclosword, Sundered Sky, Trinity Force, Rapid Fire Cannon, Wit's End, and Muramana. This will not only guarantee your first attack will crit, but it will also slow the target, give you increased range, and be very useless after that first hit. The strongest auto attack in the game can kill anyone in one shot, even at level 18. Darius is a formidable champion, but this doesn't make him broken. He is kept in check by his abysmal mobility, and the requirement to build up passive stacks to activate Noxian Might. I got the idea for this video from Scooch, who used to do a series called the Bronze Theory Crafting League. He made a video about the Big Bonkus build, where both teams built 5 specific items to create the strongest single auto attack. Scooch has stopped making League content for his own sanity, which I can appreciate, but he still makes cool content about other games, so go check him out. I'll link his channel in the description. I also saw this video by Senron, where he covers critical strikes more generally. They have a whole series about game mechanics, so go and watch those too. Thanks for making it to the end. This script took a long time to write, mainly because I had to read through a lot of ability descriptions and effects. I won't do something of this scale again anytime soon. The good news is I've turned on monetization, so every ad you see is paying me, while I'm shilling for money. If you liked the video, leave a like, and subscribe to see more from me. Also leave a comment telling me what you thought. Thanks again for watching.